She said Jason only sleeps in your bed when I'm not sad. That's what my 10-year-old son whispered over the phone, while I stood sweating in a hangar halfway across the world. My hands shook, my stomach dropped, but what gutted me most was what came next. They moved all your stuff into boxes, Dad, even your coin. The lucky coin I carried through every deployment. His coin. She didn't just betray me, she replaced me. Jason, my best friend since tech school, was playing father in my home in my bed while I served overseas. And my wife? She had divorce papers ready before I even stepped off the plane. But I didn't come home to beg. I came home to take back everything. And trust me, I did. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. My name is Marcus Steele and I'm 37 years old. Every morning starts the same. Up at 500, coffee while checking aircraft maintenance logs, and the familiar weight of my Air Force uniform against my shoulders. My son Ryan, 10 and wise beyond his years, always waves from the porch before catching the school bus. My wife Marissa handles the home front with practiced efficiency, though her smiles have grown shorter lately. My best friend from tech school, Jason Weller, keeps offering to help around the house, maybe a bit too often. The scent of jet fuel follows me home each evening to our neat ranch house in Texas, where Ryan shows me his latest model planes. He gave me his lucky coin before this deployment, but something feels off. When I hold that coin now, my fingers tense against the metal. But let me start from the beginning. 18 hours into my shift, the desert heat still pressed against the hangar walls like a living thing. I'd just finished recalibrating the navigation system on our third C-130 of the day when my phone buzzed. Ryan's weekly call, the bright spot that kept me going through these long deployments. "Hey, buddy," I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. "How's that science project coming along?" The silence on the other end made my hand freeze. You know that moment when your gut knows something's wrong before your brain catches up? That's what hit me right then. "Ryan, you there, son?" His breath caught, small and shaky. "Dad, I don't know if I should tell you." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I stepped away from the aircraft, finding a quiet corner. "You can tell me anything, remember? That's our deal. Mom says I shouldn't worry you while you're away." His voice cracked. "But Jason, he sleeps in your bed now." The lucky coin in my pocket suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. "What did you just say?" "He stays over all the time." Ryan's words tumbled out faster now. "Mom said it's because you're gone so much and she needs help, but..." The rest faded into white noise. My free hand pressed against the corrugated metal wall, steadying myself as the hangar seemed to tilt sideways. The coin burned cold against my thigh through the fabric of my uniform pants. "Dad, are you mad?" I forced my voice level, the way I'd learned through 17 years of military discipline. "No, buddy, not at you. Never at you." I swallowed hard. "Listen, I need to go handle something. But I love you, okay?" "Love you too, Dad." The call ended, but I stood there, letting the desert air bake my skin while memories rewound with brutal clarity. Jason's constant offers to help out. Marissa's distracted phone calls. The way she'd dodge questions about our joint account. All those times Jason joked about having a key to our place just in case. I pulled out Ryan's coin, turning it over and over in my palm until the metal warmed. The same coin I'd promised to keep safe. The same damn coin I'd told him would bring me luck. 20 minutes later, I was in my commander's office with an emergency leave request. The look in my eyes must have said enough because he signed it without questions. Sometimes the military's strict hierarchy works in your favor. You learn to keep emotion off your face and steel in your spine. The flight home felt endless. 16 hours of recycled air and fluorescent lighting, each mile ratcheting up the tension in my shoulders. I replayed every conversation from the past year, seeing the signs I'd missed. Jason asking about my deployment schedule, Marissa's new clothes and distant attitude on video calls. The way she'd mentioned redecorating our bedroom to brighten things up. A flight attendant offered me coffee. I declined, already wired on adrenaline and cold fury. The couple across the aisle kept stealing glances, probably noticed how I hadn't moved or slept the entire flight. But I couldn't rest. Not with Jason's voice echoing in my head, Don't worry about a thing, brother. I'll take care of everything while you're gone. Yeah, he'd taken care of things all right. When we touched down in Texas, the familiar heat hit me different than the deserts. This was home heat, thick with humidity and memory. I grabbed my duffel from baggage claim and caught a taxi, giving the driver an address 3 blocks from my house. No sense announcing my arrival. The walk down my street felt surreal, like one of those dreams where everything looks normal but feels wrong. Same oak trees. Same cracked sidewalk I'd been meaning to fix. Same American flag hanging from old Mrs. Peterson's porch. But now it all seemed like a stage set, hiding something ugly underneath. I reached my front porch, boots silent on the wooden steps. Ryan's bike leaned against the railing, but next to it sat an expensive mountain bike I didn't recognize. My house key felt foreign in my hand as I stood there, uniform damp with Texas sweat, that lucky coin a cold weight in my pocket. The pre-dawn air hung thick as molasses when I reached for my house key. 17 years of muscle memory guided my hand, but something felt off. The brass nameplate that once read Steel Family had vanished from the mailbox, leaving lighter paint where sun hadn't faded the metal. Even in the dim light, I could tell the lawn was manicured within an inch of its life. Not my usual military neat but magazine perfect, like someone was trying too hard. You know that feeling when you walk into your own home and it doesn't feel like yours anymore? That hit me the second I stepped inside. The air smelled wrong. Some fancy candle scent instead of the usual mix of coffee and Ryan's sneakers. My deployment gear usually lived in the corner by the door, ready for inspection. Gone. The worn duffel, the spare boots, the training manuals, all vanished like they never existed. I moved through the living room, each step revealing another subtle change. Family photos had been rearranged, the ones featuring me now pushed to the edges or replaced entirely. My favorite coffee mug, the chipped Air Force One Ryan gave me 3 Father's Days ago, was missing from its spot on the kitchen counter. Even the throw blanket I'd brought back from Germany had disappeared from the couch. A floorboard creaked behind me. Marcus? Marissa's voice wavered, trying to hit surprised but landing somewhere between guilty and terrified. You weren't due back for months. I turned slowly. She stood in the hallway wrapped in a plush robe I'd never seen before, hair perfectly styled even at dawn. Who does their hair at 5 a.m. unless they're hiding something? Her fingers kept fidgeting with the robe's belt, and her eyes darted around the room like she was taking inventory of what I might have already noticed. Emergency leave, I said, keeping my voice neutral. The military teaches you that. How to stay composed when everything inside is screaming. Where's my gear? Oh, we were just organizing. Spring cleaning, you know. She forced a laugh that died quickly. Jason's been helping with the yard work and some repairs. You know how he likes to keep busy since leaving the service. I said nothing, just watched her eyes. They kept sliding away from mine, then snapping back like she was reminding herself to maintain contact. Classic tell. I'd seen it in countless briefings when someone was stretching the truth. The house looks different, I said finally. Just trying to brighten things up. Another nervous laugh. You've been gone so long, I thought, well, change is good, right? Every room told the same story. My office had been transformed into what she called a meditation space. My books and manuals replaced by yoga mats and crystals. The garage workbench where I'd taught Ryan basic repairs was now buried under storage boxes. They'd been systematic about it, erasing me piece by piece, probably hoping I wouldn't notice from overseas. I waited until Marissa left for her early morning yoga class before I really dug in. The spare key, usually hidden above the garage door, had been moved. Found it in a new spot, inside a fake rock I'd never seen before. Amateur move, leaving it where a returning husband might look. Then I checked my old combat boots in the back of the closet, the ones I'd left behind because the soles were shot. Inside the right boot, stuffed way down in the toe, was a crumpled wad of papers. Hotel receipts, 6 months' worth, all for the same place off Highway 83. Always on Thursday nights when Ryan had his overnight science club. The dates lined up perfectly with my deployment schedule. They hadn't just been waiting for me to leave. They'd been practicing for it, setting up their new routine while I was still here. Testing the waters, playing house with my life while I was halfway across the world. trusting them both. I smoothed out those receipts on the kitchen counter, right where my missing coffee mug used to sit. Each one felt like another brick in the wall they'd been building, a wall designed to keep me on the outside of my own life. You know what's funny about betrayal? It comes with paperwork. 3 days after I got home, Marissa cornered me in the kitchen with a manila envelope thick enough to kill a small animal. Her hands didn't shake at all when she placed it on the counter between us. "These need your signature," she said, like she was asking me to sign a permission slip for one of Ryan's field trips. "My lawyer says it's best to handle this efficiently." I opened the envelope. The words "petition for separation" stared back at me, followed by page after page of accusations. Emotional neglect, willful abandonment, financial isolation. Each charge felt like a bullet, carefully aimed at my service record, my character, my role as a father. They'd even twisted my deployments into evidence against me. Every time I'd answered my country's call became another mark in their column. Abandonment? My voice came out eerily calm, probably not the reaction she'd expected. "That's what we're calling serving now?" She had the decency to flush but recovered quickly. "You were never here, Marcus, not really. Even when you were home, your mind was always back on base. Jason understands." I held up my hand. The mention of his name made my stomach turn. "Don't. He's been more of a father to Ryan these past—" I said don't. I gathered the papers and walked out. Just like that. No shouting, no drama. The screen door clicked shut behind me with a finality that seemed to surprise us both. I heard her call after me, probably expecting the explosion she'd rehearsed for. But I was already gone. The next morning, Jason finally showed his face. I was checking the mail when his truck pulled up. That shiny new F-150 he'd been so proud of. He gave me one of those tight nods, the kind guys use when they're trying to act casual while their pulse is racing. "Marcus." His voice had that forced steadiness I recognized from countless mission briefings. "Didn't know you were back." Clearly. He shifted his weight, eyes darting between me and the house. "Look, man, I know this seems— Save it." I turned back to the mailbox, deliberately casual. "Unless you're here to get your stuff, we've got nothing to talk about." He hesitated, probably weighing his options. Then he mumbled something about checking on Ryan and hurried inside. Coward couldn't even own what he'd done. That night, after everyone was asleep, I went through the garage. Not randomly, I had a hunch. Jason used to hide his contraband in tech school the same way, always in the last place anyone would check twice. Sure enough, buried behind some old paint cans in the back cabinet, I found the burner phone. My hands were steady as I scrolled through it. The texts went back months. Little messages about meeting spots, about their plans, about me. Photos I wish I hadn't seen. Times they'd been together while I was video calling from overseas, thinking everything was fine. "He'll never notice," one message read. "Too busy playing soldier to see what's right in front of him." The rage hit me like a physical wave. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The phone creaked in my grip and I had to consciously loosen my fingers before I broke it. Remember what I said about the military teaching you control? In that moment, every ounce of training kicked in. Instead of smashing the phone, I carefully photographed every message, every picture, every damning timestamp. Then I put it back exactly where I found it, making sure the dust pattern looked undisturbed. By the end of the week, I had a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a coffee maker, and enough space to think. Marissa probably expected me to fight, to make a scene. Instead, she got silence. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. The military teaches you to recognize patterns. That's why I chose Cole Merritt as my lawyer. His office had that same squared-away precision I'd seen in every good commander's quarters. No fancy art, just his JAG Corps citations and a worn coffee maker in the corner. "Let me be direct," Cole said, settling behind his desk. His blue eyes had that razor focus I'd seen in combat veterans. "Your wife's been planning this for months, maybe longer." I nodded, spreading out the photos I'd taken of the burner phone messages. "Figured as much. Smart move documenting these," he said, examining each one. "But here's what we're up against. Courts like stability. They like parents who show up to PTA meetings, who have roots in the community. Your wife's been crafting that image while you were deployed. The coffee in my cup had gone cold. She's always been good at appearances. Cole pulled out a thick folder. She's been seeing a therapist, Dr. Sandra Chen, twice a week for 3 months. Claims emotional distress, isolation. He glanced up. Sound familiar? Never heard of any therapist. Exactly. But she's got receipts, session notes, all documenting her struggles as a single parent while you were, quote, emotionally unavailable even before deployment. His jaw tightened. It's calculated. Every detail. The rage I'd been containing threatened to surface. I forced it down, focused on the facts. And Jason? Officially, doesn't exist. No lease, no shared accounts, nothing traceable. Just a family friend helping a struggling military wife. Cole's disgust was evident. They've been careful. I thought about Ryan's voice on that phone call, the way it had cracked. My son, that's their ace, Cole cut in. They're painting a picture. Stable mom, involved male role model versus an absent father who, they'll claim, put military service above family. The unfairness of it hit like a physical blow. 17 years of service, of missing birthdays and holidays because duty called, and now they'd use that same sacrifice against me. You remember what we used to say in the service? Cole leaned forward. This'll be war by paperwork. Every receipt, every email, every time you tried to call home, we document it all. Build our own narrative. I nodded, military precision kicking in. What's our first move? Emergency custody hearing, but he held up a hand. You need to understand something. Your wife's got a head start. She's been working the system while you were overseas. This won't be quick, and it won't be clean. That weekend, I had my first supervised visit with Ryan. The community center felt sterile, wrong. This was my son. We should have been in the garage working on his model planes, not sitting at a plastic table while a social worker took notes. How's school? I asked, trying to keep things normal. Ryan shrugged, pushing a toy car back and forth. Okay. Science fair coming up, right? Still doing the project on jet engines? Another shrug. Jason's helping me with something else now. The name hung between us like smoke. I watched my son's eyes dart away, saw how his shoulders hunched. Something was off. Ryan, I kept my voice gentle. You know you can tell me anything, right? He nodded, but wouldn't look up. When I asked about Jason again, he suddenly became fascinated with his shoelaces. That's when it hit me, really hit me. This wasn't just about a house or a marriage. They weren't just taking my home, they were systematically erasing me from my son's life. Every day I wasn't there, Jason was. Every school event, every weekend, every bedtime story, he was replacing me piece by piece. I drove back to my apartment in a daze. The place felt emptier than ever. Just a bed, a coffee maker, and walls that seemed to close in. On the nightstand, Ryan's lucky coin caught the light. I picked it up, feeling its familiar weight. The next morning, I was back in Cole's office before he'd finished his first coffee. They're manipulating my son, I said without preamble. I need to know exactly what we can do about it. Cole set down his mug, and I saw that combat veteran focus return to his eyes. Then let's go to war. The gaming console appeared one random Tuesday. Not just any console, the latest model, the one Ryan had been begging for since Christmas. I found out during our weekly video chat when he couldn't contain his excitement. Dad, you should see it. Jason got me the Ultra X with 3 controllers and everything. My stomach nodded. That's quite a gift, buddy. Yeah, and he says we might go to Six Flags next weekend if I keep my grades up. I tried to keep my voice steady. What about our weekend? We were going to work on that P-51 model kit, remember? Ryan's face fell slightly. Oh, maybe another time? Jason already got the tickets and… Sure, I forced a smile. Have fun. The calls got shorter after that. Every week there was something new. Laser tag parties, movie premieres, whatever Ryan had mentioned wanting. Jason was methodically checking off my son's wish list, one expensive item at a time. You ever watch someone else living your life? It's like seeing yourself get erased, one memory at a time. I tried fighting back the only way I knew how, through our shared love of aircraft. I'd mail him technical diagrams, articles about new fighters, anything to keep that connection alive. But the enthusiastic responses I used to get turned into short thanks messages, if he replied at all. One Friday I got a text. Can't make it tomorrow. Too much homework. I checked his social media. There he was, grinning at some arcade with Jason. The caption read, "Best day ever with my buddy Jay." The photo had more likes than any he'd posted with me. That night I sat in my empty apartment, Ryan's lucky coin cold in my palm. Remember when this meant something? When promises weren't just words we broke for better offers? The next morning Cole called. We need to review Ryan's devices. Standard procedure in custody cases. I drove over with Ryan's old tablet, the one he'd left behind during the move. Hadn't been used in months, probably nothing there, but protocol was protocol. Cole's assistant, Jenny, started the data recovery. Sometimes kids forget to clear old message threads, she explained, typing away. You'd be surprised oh, what is it? She turned the screen. There, in a messenger app Ryan rarely used, was a conversation between Jason and someone named Mike. Mike, how's the soldier's wife treating you? Jason, better than expected, already moved in. Best part? His pension's locked once they hit 20 years. 2 more years and half that money's coming home to mama. Mike, cold bro, thought he saved your ass in tech school? Jason, ancient history. Besides, guy's too busy playing hero overseas to notice what's happening in his own bed. His loss, my gain. The timestamp was from 3 months before I came home. My hands started shaking. Not from anger, though that was there, burning cold and precise, but from clarity. Every manipulation, every calculated move, laid bare in black and white. Print it, I said quietly. Print everything. Cole was already reaching for his phone. This changes things. Premeditated financial manipulation, admission of intent. He was planning this before I deployed. The words tasted like metal. While he was shaking my hand, promising to look after them. Marcus. Cole's voice cut through the fog. This is exactly what we needed, but we play it smart. No confrontations, no warnings. Let them think they're still winning. I nodded, military training kicking in. Tactical patience. Wait for the right moment. Jenny finished printing the thread. As she handed me the pages, I caught a glimpse of another message from Jason. Kids easy to handle. Few games, some trips. He'll forget Daddy ever existed. The coin in my pocket seemed to burn. I thought about Ryan's face when he first gave it to me, how serious he'd looked. For luck, Dad. So you'll always come back. I had come back. But to what? The pages felt heavy in my hands. Weight of evidence, weight of betrayal. Cole was still talking strategy, but my mind was already shifting gears, remembering every lesson from 17 years of service. Sometimes the best attacks come from positions your enemy thinks are defeated. I walked into Cole's office first thing Monday morning, printouts clutched like ammunition. His secretary didn't even try to stop me. Must have seen something in my face that said this couldn't wait. Got a minute? I asked, but I was already closing his door. Cole looked up from a stack of papers, reading glasses perched on his nose. For you? Always. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I laid out the message threads carefully, like setting up target coordinates. Jason works for Northrop Defense Systems. Top-level clearance handles sensitive contracts. Cole picked up the first page, eyes narrowing as he read. The muscle in his jaw tightened. Son of a bitch. He looked up. You realize what this means? That's why I'm here. I leaned forward. He's bragging about deliberately manipulating a service member's family for financial gain during active deployment, while holding security clearance. You know that moment when all the pieces click? When you realize the enemy just handed you the exact weapon you needed? Cole's smile was pure predator. Give me an hour, he said, reaching for his phone. 3 days later, Jason got called into his supervisor's office. By that afternoon, his badge was deactivated and security walked him out. Preliminary suspension, they called it. But in the defense contractor world, that's usually just the first step down. A week passed. Then came the official notice. Security clearance revoked. Employment terminated. Seems defense contractors take a pretty dim view of employees who deliberately target military families for exploitation. Who knew? I was in my apartment, cleaning my old service pistol. Some habits you never break, when my phone exploded with Marissa's name. You bastard! Her voice hit frequencies I didn't know existed. You ruined him. He lost everything because of you. I just listened, methodically reassembling the weapon. Click, slide, lock. Answer me. You had no right. Funny, I finally said, voice calm as a sniper's breath. That's exactly what I thought when I came home. She hung up, but something in her rage sparked a memory. The way she'd been so careful with the mail lately, how she'd insist on handling all the bank statements herself. That night, I pulled up every financial record I could access, started tracking patterns, withdrawals, transfers. Military precision has its uses outside the service. Cole, I said the next morning, spreading printouts across his desk. Look at these withdrawals, every month like clockwork. Started small, got bigger. He adjusted his glasses. Joint account? Technically. But I was deployed. Everything going in was my pay. Cole's fingers traced the paper trail. Where's it all going? That's what I need you to find out. It took him 3 days. When I walked into his office that Thursday, he had a thick folder waiting. Ever heard of Palm Harbor luxury condos? He slid a glossy brochure across the desk. My stomach dropped. The new development off Highway 9? Unit 407. Purchased 6 months ago. He opened the folder. Under the name Marissa Steele. Down payment from your joint savings. Monthly payments from those regular withdrawals you found. I stared at the purchase agreement. Her signature, bold and confident, right there on the dotted line. Using money I'd earned while dodging mortar fire and breathing jet fuel. She bought a condo, I said slowly, while I was deployed. With my money. Our friend Marissa's been busy. Cole pulled out more documents. She set up a separate account, diverted funds, even started the paperwork for a home equity loan against the house you both own. The room felt too small suddenly, like being trapped in a cockpit with warning lights flashing. In most states, Cole continued, his voice taking on that precise tone I recognized from mission briefings, hiding assets during divorce proceedings is considered fraud. Using joint funds to purchase private property without spousal knowledge or consent? He tapped the folder. That's what we call a smoking gun. I thought about all those careful phone calls during deployment, her constant complaints about money being tight, about sacrifices. Meanwhile, she was building her escape pod, piece by piece funded by my service pay. What's our next move? I asked, military training kicking in. Assess, plan, execute. Cole smiled that predator smile again. Now we go hunting. The courthouse halls still smelled like old wood and anxiety. I'd gotten used to it over the past few weeks, but this morning felt different. Today wasn't about negotiations or temporary arrangements. Today was about hard numbers and cold facts. Cole strode beside me, manila folder thick with bank statements and property records. Remember, he said, straightening his tie, let the evidence do the talking. You ever notice how guilty people can't quite meet your eyes? As we entered the courtroom, Marissa kept fidgeting with her pearls, the ones she'd bought last Christmas claiming they were on sale. Now I wondered what account had paid for those too. Her lawyer tried the usual delay tactics. Your Honor, we need more time to gather complete documentation. Cole was ready. We have 6 months of bank records showing systematic fund diversion during my client's deployment. We have property purchase documents signed solely by Mrs. Steele, using joint marital assets. And we have proof she attempted to secure a home equity loan without spousal notification. The judge, a stern woman with reading glasses perched low on her nose, looked up sharply. Mrs. Steele, is this accurate? Marissa's face did that thing I'd seen too many times during deployment video calls, the mask slipping just enough to show panic underneath. I was trying to secure our future, she said, voice wavering perfectly. Marcus was always so distant, so focused on his service. I needed stability. Stability? The judge's tone could have frozen jet fuel. You mean purchasing a luxury condo with your deployed husband's earnings? I watched Marissa's lawyer lean over and whisper something urgent. She shook her head slightly, but he persisted. Finally, she pulled out a folder of her own, probably the documentation they'd been trying to hide. The next hour was all numbers. Cole methodically laid out every transfer, every withdrawal, every attempted cover-up. The judge's expression grew darker with each revelation. The total kept climbing. $42,847 in diverted funds, not counting the attempted home equity grab. The court finds clear evidence of financial misconduct, the judge announced. Mrs. Steele will repay $42,947 within 90 days. Furthermore, given the deliberate nature of these actions during active military deployment, Mrs. Steele forfeits all claim to Mr. Steele's military pension and benefits. The sound Marissa made was somewhere between a gasp and a snarl. Her lawyer started talking about appeals, but the judge wasn't finished. Let me be very clear, she continued. This court takes a particularly dim view of attempts to exploit deployed service members. Consider yourself fortunate that criminal charges aren't being pursued. Outside the courthouse, I was heading toward my truck when I heard the clicking of heels behind me. You bastard, Marissa hissed. You just couldn't let it go, could you? Had to play the wounded soldier? I turned slowly. She stood there, mascara perfect despite her rage, that familiar look of contempt twisting her features. You really want to do this here? I kept my voice level, reaching into my jacket pocket. You've ruined everything. She stepped closer, jabbing a finger at my chest. Jason and I had it all planned. We were going to what? I pulled out the final bank statement, the one showing her last attempted transfer, and held it up. Keep stealing? Keep lying? Here, one more for your collection. She snatched the paper, crumpling it in her manicured hands. Ryan will never. Don't. My voice dropped low, the tone I used when something critical was about to fail mid-flight. Don't you dare use our son as a weapon. I walked away then, her words fading behind me. But she was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Ryan was still caught in the middle, still being poisoned by Jason's promises and gifts. I pulled out my phone and dialed Cole. That custody hearing, I said when he answered. I want to move it up, and I want to bring everything, the bribes, the manipulation, all of it. Already on it, Cole replied. I'm filing the motion this afternoon. You ready for another fight? I felt the weight of Ryan's lucky coin in my pocket. For my son? Always. The courthouse felt different that morning. Maybe it was the weight of Ryan's future hanging in the balance, or maybe it was just knowing this would be the last time we'd all face each other like this. Cole had our evidence organized in neat folders, weeks of careful documentation about to pay off. Your Honor, Cole began, we have clear evidence of systematic emotional manipulation of a minor. He pulled up the first screenshot on the courtroom display. These are text messages between Mr. Weller and the child, promising expensive gifts in exchange for specific testimony. I watched the judge lean forward, studying the messages. My stomach turned as I read Jason's words again. Just tell them you want to stay with your mom and me. I'll get you that new gaming system we talked about. Cole moved methodically through the evidence. Screenshots of Jason coaching Ryan on what to say, receipts for lavish purchases, all carefully timed before previous hearings. Then came the video that had nearly broken me when I first saw it. This was recorded on Ryan's tablet during a practice session, Cole explained. The footage showed Jason sitting with Ryan, running through questions and answers like some twisted rehearsal. Remember, Jason was saying, if they ask about your dad, say he's always gone. Say you feel safer with me. Ryan's small voice responded, but that's not true. Come on, buddy, we talked about this. Don't you want that new bike? I gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. The judge's expression hardened as she watched. Then came evidence of Marissa's fabricated counseling sessions, receipts that didn't match office records, dates that conflicted with her own social media posts, showing her at spas or shopping. Your Honor, Cole continued, we've also discovered Mr. Weller has been recording these coaching sessions to ensure the child stays consistent with their manufactured narrative. This represents a clear pattern of exploitation. The judge turned to where Ryan sat with the court advocate. Ryan, would you be willing to tell me the truth about these videos? My son looked so small in that big wooden chair. He clutched something in his hand. I recognized the familiar shape of his lucky coin. His voice came out barely above a whisper. Jason, he told me what to say. Said I had to help Mom or Dad would take me away forever. Ryan's shoulders hunched. He said if I didn't do what they wanted, I'd never see Mom again, but he glanced at me briefly. But that's not what Dad ever said. Dad just wanted to see me. The judge's voice softened. Did Jason promise you things if you said what he wanted? Ryan nodded. Games, trips, he said. His voice cracked. He said he'd be a better dad than my real dad. I felt the familiar surge of anger but kept my face neutral. Ryan needed to see strength now, not rage. The judge straightened, removing her reading glasses. Given the extensive evidence of emotional manipulation and what amounts to witness tampering involving a minor, this court finds immediate action necessary. She looked directly at Jason. Mr. Weller, your attempts to manipulate this child's testimony are unconscionable. Mrs. Steele's absence today speaks volumes about her priorities. Jason started to protest, but the judge cut him off with a sharp gesture. I am awarding sole physical and legal custody to Marcus Steele, effective immediately. She turned to me. Mr. Steele, the court recognizes your consistent efforts to maintain a relationship with your son despite systematic interference. Ryan will reside with you full-time. Jason shot to his feet, face red. This is bullsh. Mr. Weller, the judge's voice cracked like a whip. Remove yourself from my courtroom before I have you removed. Jason stormed out, slamming the heavy door behind him. The sound echoed through the suddenly quiet room. The judge softened her tone again. Ryan, you can go to your father now. Ryan slid off the chair and walked toward me, still clutching that coin. When he reached me, I knelt down to his level. He pressed the coin into my palm, the same one he'd given me before deployment. I kept the other one, he whispered. The one you sent back. Can we go home now, Dad? I wrapped my arms around him, feeling him trembling slightly. Yeah, buddy. We can go home. Walking out of the courthouse, Ryan's hand in mine, I felt the weight of the past months finally starting to lift. The coin in my pocket was warm, like it had been waiting all this time to come back to us. The next few months played out like dominoes falling, one satisfying click after another. Word travels fast in military communities, and Jason's reputation imploded first. Turns out defense contractors take a real dim view of employees who try to manipulate service members' pensions. His security clearance went up in smoke, and in our industry, that's career suicide. Last I heard, he was crashing on his sister's couch in Oklahoma, sending out resumes that kept getting ghosted. You know what's funny? I remember all those times he'd brag about his six-figure consulting gigs, acting like he was doing me a favor by hanging around. Now he couldn't even land an entry-level position. Those ethics violations stuck to him like tar. Marissa's fall from grace wasn't far behind. She'd spent years crafting this image of the perfect military wife. You know the type, always volunteering for spouse events, posting those carefully filtered photos of family dinners. But when the truth came out about the hidden condo and the fraud, her social circle evaporated overnight. The same women who used to come over for wine nights suddenly couldn't return her calls. She ended up taking a dental receptionist job in Arizona, living in some cramped one-bedroom place that probably didn't have space for all her designer bags. Sometimes I wondered if she ever looked at those old family photos and felt anything real, or if we'd just been props in her performance all along. Neither of them tried reaching out. No apologetic texts, no requests for reconciliation. I guess that's what happens when people show you who they really are. They can't handle seeing their reflection in your eyes anymore. But here's the thing about betrayal. It shows you exactly what matters. For me, that meant rebuilding around what was real. I re-enlisted, this time with my priorities crystal clear. The Air Force had been my constant through everything, and there was something right about recommitting to it on my own terms. Ryan and I found a modest 3-bedroom ranch house near base. Nothing fancy, but it had good bones and a garage big enough for projects. The first weekend we moved in, we spent hours arranging his model aircraft collection on new shelves. The way his eyes lit up when we finally got everything placed just right. That's the kind of moment that heals you. Dad, he said that day, carefully adjusting a P-51 Mustang, Can we build the new ones together? Like we used to? The memory hit me hard. Nights before deployment, hunched over the dining room table with paint and glue, teaching him how to detail engine panels. Every Saturday morning, I promised, we'll start with whichever one you want. We fell into comfortable routines. Breakfast before school, homework right after, model building on weekends. When he had questions about his mom, I answered honestly, but never with anger. Kids are smart. They see through adult games eventually. What they need is stability and truth. The lucky coin found its perfect spot in a shadow box on the living room wall, right next to Ryan's first solo-built model plane. Sometimes I'd catch him showing it to friends who came over, telling the story with a kind of quiet pride that made my chest tight. One night, as we were cleaning up after dinner, Ryan paused at the shadow box. You know what Jason used to say? He traced the edge of the frame. He said you'd forget about us. That deployment meant you didn't care. I put down the dish towel and walked over. What do you think about that now? He smiled, a real smile, not the careful one he'd worn during those courthouse days. I think he didn't understand about promises, or coins, or dads. The garage still smells like model paint and aircraft primer most weekends. Different house, same scent. But now when I breathe it in, I don't smell jet fuel and loss anymore. Instead, it reminds me of Saturday mornings with Ryan, carefully piecing together small versions of the planes I work on, building something new from the ground up. Life has a way of sorting out pretenders. Jason and Marissa thought they were writing my ending, but all they did was free me to start a better chapter. They're somewhere out there, living with their choices. Meanwhile, Ryan and I are right where we belong, under a roof that echoes with real laughter and honest conversations. Ryan and I spent that first month making the house truly ours. You know how moving works. It's not just about unpacking boxes. It's about choosing what stories you want those walls to tell. We went through everything methodically, the way I'd learned to inspect aircraft. Keep what matters, let go of what doesn't. What about this one, Dad? Ryan held up a dusty frame from his old room, a forced family portrait from 2 Christmases ago. Everyone's smiling, but now I could see how plastic those grins were. Your call, buddy. I kept my voice neutral, watching him study the photo. He set it aside, face down. I like the ones of just us better. Then he pulled out a snapshot from an air show we'd attended, him on my shoulders, both of us squinting into the sun, genuine joy written all over our faces. That one went straight to the wall. The house slowly came alive with memories we actually wanted to keep. Ryan's academic certificates, photos from base events where he'd helped me work on planes, his growing collection of model aircraft. No forced perfection, just honest pieces of who we were. I was elbow deep in organizing tools in the garage when my phone buzzed. Ryan's school counselor, Mrs. Thompson. My stomach tightened. We'd had enough of counselors lately, but her voice was warm. Mr. Steele, I hope I'm not interrupting. I had to call. Ryan wrote an essay today titled My Real Dad. She paused, and I heard her collect herself. In 20 years of counseling, I've never... The wrench in my hand suddenly felt heavy. Everything okay? More than okay. He wrote about promises, about how anyone can say words but real love shows up every day. He talked about a lucky coin and how his dad carried it through war zones just because he said he would. Her voice cracked. Mr. Steele, that boy knows exactly who fought for him. And why. I mumbled something about appreciating the call and hung up. Had to step outside for a minute. Found myself staring at that coin in its shadow box. Remembered the weight of it in my pocket overseas, how I'd touch it during long nights when doubt tried creeping in. Back then, it had been a promise to return. Now it was proof that I had, in every way that mattered. The sound of Ryan's backpack hitting the floor brought me back. Dad? You okay? I cleared my throat. Yeah, bud, just thinking. I gestured to his homework folder. Your counselor called. Told me about your essay. His cheeks flushed, but he held my gaze. Was that okay? Writing about everything? Come here. I pulled him into a hug, felt him relax against my chest like he used to when he was smaller. It's more than okay. It's your story, too. That night after dinner, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with his notebook open. Dad? I was thinking, maybe I could write down everything that happened. The whole story. He fidgeted with his pencil. Like, from the beginning. So I never forget what's real. The request hit me hard. Here was my son, wanting to document truth instead of hiding from it. Wanting to learn from it. You sure about that? He nodded. But, he glanced at the coin in its frame. Could you help me end it right? With something important? A lesson, I said, understanding what he meant. Some stories need more than just an ending. They need a truth to carry forward. Yeah, he smiled. That open, trusting smile I'd fought so hard to protect. Because it's not just about what happened. It's about what we learned, right? I pulled up a chair beside him, watching as he wrote the date at the top of the page. My son, turning pain into purpose, making sense of chaos through words. Some might say 10 is too young to process betrayal, but I've learned kids understand more than we think. They just need someone to show them how to build strength from scars. The laptop chimed while I was making breakfast. Ryan looked up from his cereal, but I just shook my head and kept flipping pancakes. The subject line said it all. Jason Weller, need to talk. Delete. Didn't even open it. You know that feeling when you're working on an aircraft and you finally get all the systems running clean? That's what ignoring that email felt like. Pure mechanical satisfaction. No more interference in the signals. Was that him again? Ryan asked, pushing his bowl away. Doesn't matter, bud. I slid a stack of pancakes his way. Focus on these instead. He grinned, drowning them in syrup just like always. Some things never change, thank God. The morning light caught his face as he ate, and for a second I saw that younger version of him. The one who used to wait by the door for me to come home from work. But this smile was different. Steadier. Later that afternoon, the school's parent portal buzzed on my phone. Marissa had left a message, something about regrets and hoping for understanding. I clicked delete before reading past the first line. Some voices don't deserve airtime anymore, especially when they're just trying to ease their own conscience. Remember those old radios we used to work on? How sometimes you'd get clearer reception by removing damaged parts instead of trying to fix them. Same principle. The mail truck rolled up around 4. Among the usual bills was a thick envelope from Cole's office. Final settlement papers, all signed and notarized. Everything officially closed. Custody, assets, pension. I set them on the kitchen counter and just stood there for a minute, feeling the weight of all those months lift away. You ever notice how victory doesn't always roar? Sometimes it just quietly nods and lets you breathe easier. Ryan burst through the door from school, clutching his latest model plane, a P-51 Mustang we'd been working on. Dad, can we finish it tonight? Sure can. I nodded toward the fireplace. Thought we might have a fire too, getting cold out there. He ran to get the paint supplies while I stacked logs and kindling. Soon enough, flames were dancing, throwing warm light across the room. The coin caught that light from its place above the mantel, and I found myself thinking about its journey. From Ryan's small hand to my pocket in the desert, through all those nights of doubt, and finally here, watching over us both. Dad? Ryan's voice pulled me back. He was studying the model's wings with that focused look he gets. You think they'll ever stop trying to talk to us? I sat beside him, helping him steady the piece he was painting. Maybe not. But that's their problem, not ours. He nodded slowly, adding another careful stripe of silver. Like when you have to tune out static to hear the real signal? Had to smile at that. My boy speaking aircraft tech already. Exactly like that. The fire crackled and popped, filling our comfortable silence. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange that reminded me of dawn on the flight line. But this was better. This was home. Ryan held up the finished plane, turning it to catch the firelight. Perfect, he declared. And you know what? Looking at him there, face glowing with pride and firelight, that's exactly what it was. Not the plastic perfection they'd tried to manufacture, but something real, something earned. The settlement papers sat forgotten on the counter. They didn't matter anymore. What mattered was right here. My son, our home, and the quiet understanding that some battles end not with a bang, but with the simple choice to change the channel and move forward. That coin above the fireplace caught the light one more time, like a final wink of approval. We'd kept our promise to each other, not just to return, but to build something worth coming back to. Morning sunlight streamed through our living room windows, catching dust motes that danced above Ryan's scattered homework on the coffee table. He'd been up late studying for a science test, and I couldn't help but smile at his organized chaos. Textbook marked with sticky notes, pencils lined up by size, just like I'd taught him. You know that feeling when everything just clicks into place? When the machinery hums exactly right? My gaze drifted to the wall where my service medals hung, each one telling its own story of duty and perseverance. Below them sat a framed newspaper clipping from last month, a small piece about Jason's former company implementing stricter ethics policies after a recent incident. They didn't name him, but everyone in the industry knew. Last I heard, he was living with his sister 2 states over, blacklisted from any job requiring security clearance. Sometimes karma works through paperwork. The morning mail brought another returned envelope addressed to Marissa. She'd moved again, probably another month-to-month rental. The bankruptcy proceedings had stripped her of everything she'd tried to hide. These days she was using her maiden name, working part-time at a strip mall salon. Funny how those abandonment claims looked now that she'd abandoned 3 addresses in 6 months. Remember those old aircraft maintenance logs, how every detail mattered? How one loose bolt could bring down the whole machine. That's what brought them down, the details they thought nobody would check. Ryan's footsteps thundered down the stairs, interrupting my thoughts. Dad, found it. He was clutching a worn photo album I hadn't seen in years. Look, my first air show. I joined him on the couch as he flipped through the pages. There we were, him barely tall enough to see over the barriers, me in my dress blues. Every photo showed his face lit up with pure wonder. No staged smiles, no borrowed happiness, just real moments between a father and son. Can we go to one soon? He asked, tracing the outline of a C-130 with his finger. There's one next month that... Already got the tickets, I said, ruffling his hair. His grin could have powered the whole house. Above the fireplace, that lucky coin caught the morning light, protected behind museum-grade glass in its shadow box. The brass had deepened to a rich patina, but the eagle emblem still stood proud. Next to it hung my latest evaluation. Outstanding, across every category. Turns out staying professional while your world crashes speaks volumes to command. You ever notice how the truest victories don't need announcing? They just settle in, quiet and permanent, like dawn breaking after a long night. Ryan gathered his homework, careful not to mix up his color-coded folders. Oh yeah, Dad? Mrs. Henderson wanted to know if you could talk to our class about aircraft systems next month. She said my presentation about maintenance protocols was really good. I nodded, chest swelling with quiet pride. Tell her I'll be there. He headed for the door, then paused. You know what Jason used to say? That understanding planes was boring. But he was wrong. It's about understanding how things work, right? How to keep them flying straight. That's exactly right, bud. The morning sun climbed higher, warming the room. Through the window I could see our neighbor wave as she walked her dog. Just another normal day in a life we'd rebuilt, piece by careful piece. No drama, no shouting, no manipulation, just the steady rhythm of doing things right. Looking around our living room, homework spread out, service medals gleaming, that coin standing guard above it all, I felt something settle deep in my bones. They'd tried to steal a legacy built over 17 years of service. Instead, they'd forced us to forge something stronger, something earned through silence, strategy, and unwavering focus on what really mattered. The sound of Ryan's school bus pulling up drew me back to the present. He grabbed his backpack, already talking about the model jet engine we'd promised to work on that weekend. Just before he left, he tapped the coin's shadow box twice. Our little ritual started the day we hung it there. Some things can't be stolen. They have to be earned back. And when you do earn them back, they shine brighter than ever. I believe stories like this find us for a reason. If this one touched you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, and tomorrow's might be the one your heart's been waiting for.